Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am going to be doing a full face with you today, and I mentioned in my most recent favorites video that I was going to be doing this soon because there is a look that for probably half of April and a few of the first days of May, I did fairly consecutively. I just couldn't get away from it. I loved it. I loved how it looked. I loved how it wore. It went with everything. I could use any lip color, any blush color, because really blush is like the main thing I switched up. Any outfit, it didn't matter. It just went with everything. It was a no-brainer look for me. So I shared a couple of the items that were included in the look in my favorites video, but I'm here to show you the entire thing. So let's jump in and put some makeup on this face. The under eye products that I'm going to use was a combination that I spoke about on my favorites. The first is the Clinique Airbrush Concealer. This is in Light Honey, and I have been using this as more of a corrector. So it is a brush up pen applicator, which, if I'm being completely honest, is my least favorite applicator, but I really appreciate how this product works as a corrector for me because of the color, which again is Light Honey. It just takes some of that darkness away, not all of it. It is very lightweight, which is good considering I'm going to be putting a concealer on top of it. And it just wears really well. I've worn it under lots of concealers, probably my top 3 at the moment, especially, and it works with all of them. Again, it is not the most high coverage, but on days where I stick a tinted moisturizer on and brows and some mascara, which is basically what I have on today, I will put a little bit of this under my eyes, leave it be. I don't powder it or anything. It just takes away a little bit of that darkness, makes me feel a little bit more put together. But honestly, that's the extent of it. So really, it would be this face that you're seeing with lip gloss and mascara, and I would be good to go. And this brush is also a favorite. Now, I will link the brushes that I use down below. This is the old Sephora Pro number 47. They have redone all of their Pro collection, so I can't speak for the new one, but I will link the new one just in case. But I've been loving this for under eye. I honestly think it's been at least 3.5 weeks since I have touched my sponge for any area of my face, which says a lot. I've just really been loving this. Now, this next part is my favorite part of the video because not only is it foundation, which is my favorite category of makeup, but it's a newer foundation technique that I have been doing. This is not a new technique. I didn't think of it. I know that it's been around forever, but I have not done it until last month, and honestly, I just could not stop. And I pulled out some of my favorite loose mineral foundations. So these are the 3 that I have tried this technique with. This is the Alima Pure, the Satin Matte Foundation. I'm in the shade Neutral 4 in this. My Jane Iredale Amazing Base in Warm Sienna, which I've used a lot. I use this as a powder foundation. I use it as a powder. Love it. And then the Inica Loose Mineral Foundation, SPF 25. I am in the shade Nurture Y4, and that's what I'm going to be using today. But again, I have used this technique with all of these, and it works great. So what I do is I will take some of the powder foundation onto a palette, and then I'm going to add a moisturizer to make it liquid. And the moisturizer that I have been using, I honestly have not tried it with any other moisturizer. I'm sure it would work with anything that is a favorite of yours. If you want it super illuminating, you could mix in a liquid illuminator. You can mix in a primer. It's however you wish to do it. But I have been using the Sente Ultralight Defense Moisturizer, which is exactly what it says. It's an ultralight moisturizer. It's one that I have been using at least half of this tube as my morning moisturizer. And then I brought it in here, and it's been in here ever since because I love it with this. So I'm just gonna add just a little bit of that moisturizer into the powder to form your own foundation, liquid foundation / tinted moisturizer. And then I basically apply it just as I would a regular liquid foundation. So I'm going to take my IT Cosmetics 115 and stipple it in to the skin. This particular Inica has a little bit of light reflection within the powder, but I don't find that it's super dewy, especially when I mix it in with the moisturizer. So just like that, I have this beautiful, super lightweight, because that moisturizer sinks in really well. It's one of the reasons I loved it so much for a morning moisturizer anyways. And it just sinks in so nice. Is a very beautiful foundation on its own. But once you mix it in and make it that liquid, it's just, my skin loves it. And it is, you know, pretty decent coverage. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing any coverage. Now I am dealing with a little bit more redness than normal today. You know, I never know what I'm going to wake up with, but I do find that this still gives me the coverage that I really enjoy in a foundation, and it's buildable. So again, I can just kind of stamp over where the redness is the worst, and I get that coverage that I want. If you want a fuller coverage, then I would go with a fuller coverage foundation like the Amazing Base. This is probably the fullest of the loose powders. I have not tried this with my Bare Minerals because it is a little dark for me right now. I need to wait till I'm more like in the middle of the summer and have more color to my skin to be able to pull that off, I think. But I can imagine it would work just as well. So I'm getting all those moisturizer benefits from the actual moisturizer, as well as the beautiful coverage and finish of the Inica loose powder. Y'all, I know this is not new, but it's new for me and I just can't stop. It's gorgeous. It makes me want to buy more loose powders so that I can turn them into liquid foundations, because it just is such a pretty finish. Now, the second part of the under eye duo that I mentioned in my favorites is the new Lawless Conceal the Deal Full Coverage Concealer. This is just so good. And I told you, I've said it every time I talk about this concealer, that I just despise the applicator. I think it's a doe foot, but it looks like a paddle because so much product comes out. And when I say you need the very smallest amount, you need the very smallest amount. I'm not doing more than that. You need 1 dot under each eye, or at least I do. And then I put a little bit on the bridge of my nose because I have some discoloration there that I always like to get a little bit more coverage from. But it just blends out. I'm using that same number 47 brush, and it's just like, okay, coverage, blendability, I've got you covered on all fronts. And because it's got such great coverage and I don't need to use a ton, I find that the wear is fabulous. Doesn't crease and crunch up and do all of those ugly C words we don't like happening under our eyes. Now, I'm going to let all of that sink in. I'm not using any, well, I take that back. I'm using a cream highlight, but I don't need to put that on now. I'll put that on at the very end. And we'll go to the eyes. Super simple eyes. It's 3 products, but honestly, it takes me maybe a minute to do this. And if you include mascara, maybe just a few minutes. I'm going to be using the bronzer I talked about in my favorites. This is the MAC Give Me Sun Mineralized Skin Finish. And it is just my favorite summer bronzer. It's what I pull out every summer to give me that really warm look. If you are not a fan of warm toned bronzers, you will definitely not want this because it is very warm tone. That's why I like to really pull it out in the summer to give that tan look. But I also love it as an eyeshadow, and that's how I've been using it along with using it as a bronzer. So I'm going to take, this is, Sigma sent me over some products. This is the E38 Diffused Crease Brush. It's the Rose Gold edition. And I'm going to take that and just basically put this bronzer all in my crease. It's really nice and buildable. It's not so much that you're going to put it on and be like, oh, I need to scale it back. It's not like that at all. It's one of my favorite shades, as I talked about in my favorites, to use by itself as an eyeshadow, throw on some mascara, and you still look really put together. Okay, for the lid colors, I'm going to be using 2 of the Chantecaille Luminescent eye shades, and I am using Giraffe and Cheetah. These are probably my 2 favorites. I also have Zebra and Crane. I think Lion is something I want to add to my collection as well. Honestly, they're all beautiful. I'm going to start out with Giraffe, which is this gorgeous bronzy, luminescent brown shade. So very pretty. And I'm gonna be using my Beauty Counter, I think this is just called the all over brush. This has been my favorite brush to use for this. It's very dense and it's flat. So it's perfect for all over shadow, but especially for the lid. So I'm just going to really get a good amount of that on, and I'm gonna press this on the outer corner of my eye. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm gonna turn the brush around and go into Cheetah, which is this beautiful gold shimmery goodness. And I am going to basically do the same thing, but on the inner corner, and then match it up with the giraffe. And that's it. No shadow liner, anything for this look. That's the 3 steps that I've been doing, and it's just, again, something that goes with everything. So you definitely don't have to set this foundation combo that I applied, but I am someone who likes to set. So another beautiful thing about this technique is that you don't need to get a separate setting powder out, right? You used a powder for your foundation, you can use a powder to set. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use the same Inica powder and my La Mer powder brush. And I'm just gonna use that more as a setting powder versus a foundation. So I'm not trying to like buff it in, right? I've already got that coverage from the foundation. I'm just kind of setting it into the skin. And since it's the exact same formula, you know they're gonna work well together. So I've tried this both with the Alima Pure and the Amazing Base, and it works great every time. So see, it's still a little bit luminous because the Inica is more of a luminous foundation. If you don't like that, I would go with something like the Alima Pure or the Satin Matte. The Amazing Base is actually not as luminous used this way as it is used by itself. So that's something to keep in mind too. Now I'm gonna go back into that same bronzer on my Rephr 22 and use that to bronze up the face. Again, this is gonna give a very warm, toned look. So it's gotta be something that you're a fan of. I know some people are strictly cool tone bronzers, some are strictly warm tone, and some like to have a little bit of both. I am of the group that likes to have a little bit of both. I think there's a time and a place for both, but again, we all have our preferences, and I personally love this one. Now, as I mentioned before, blush is pretty much the one thing that I have been changing up with this look. And that gives me the freedom to choose a more warmer tone or a more cooler tone, because even though this bronzer is pretty warm, I can still wear cool tone blushes with it. That's not an issue. And I've been loving this palette that Sigma sent over. This is their Corta Rosa blush palette. This is great for a makeup artist to have in their kit to cover many skin tones, but it's also great for personal use. And I don't say that for a ton of different palettes, especially, you know, like bronzer palettes and contour palettes. Like there's only so many shades of that kind of stuff that one person can use. But these are 6 blush shades that one person could easily use. And again, I love using blushes as eyeshadows. These are gorgeous on the eyes, but I've really been dipping into this palette a lot because it has the more neutral Corta Rosa, which is something I've had in my collection for a very long time and I love. It also has more warm tone peach. It's got some pinks, and then it's got a couple of, this one is really pretty. It reminds me of, what's that one I love? Tawny, I think, from Bobbi Brown. And then it has 2 more shimmery shades down in the bottom. So it's really got something for every look, and I do think is a great addition for personal use. I also love mixing these colors, and I think I'm gonna mix Pashima, which is this really pretty pink color, and Corta Rosa. Corta Rosa is pretty mixed with all of them. So I'm just gonna kind of touch into both because I'm wearing a little bit more of a pinky lip, and use that as my blush. Really good pigment, and I'll be buffing this out, don't worry. And good lasting power too, because I feel like that's the one question I get most about blushes is how does it last? Because they typically are the first makeup product to leave a face. And I feel like these are great when it comes to lasting power. And then I am gonna buff, but I'm not gonna put any additional product. I like the level of sheen that I have on my face right now. If I were to go in with my typical Hourglass Radiant Light. I may add a little bit more, and I think it might put it over the top. So I'm just not going to add any kind of product, but still use the brush to kind of buff any harsh lines out. And then for highlight, this is the highlight I talked about in my favorites video, and this is a cream highlight, which is again something I have just been reaching for exclusively for a very long time now. But this is the Lila Bee Bedazzling. This is a little mini, and they sent this to me in a little set, and I love Bee Enchanting. The lightest shade has been a favorite of mine. Lots of y'all responded to my question about whether or not you wanted a cream highlight collection video, and so many people said yes. I will be filming that. It will be coming up soon, but this is the darker rose gold shade, but it still works. So I'm just gonna tap that just on, look at how pretty that is, the high points. Oh my goodness, y'all love this so much. I just love a cream / liquid highlight. So, so pretty. And then the final thing I'm going to do to finish off the eyes is go back into that bronzer and use that to buff out under the lash line. Not a step you have to do, but it's a step I always do. I don't want to say always. Let's say 99.5% of the time, I will do this step. And typically, unless I'm doing like a pop of color, it is always the crease color that I used, hence why I am using this. You could also, to make it easy on deciding what color to use, you could use whatever blush color you use that day to, again, change it up a little bit, but still have it cohesive with the rest of the face. I'll do my mascara off camera, but I am using a product that I talked about in my favorites, and it's actually in conjunction with the L'Oreal Voluminous Primer, as well as the L'Oreal Voluminous Burgundy Mascara. And you'll see if you didn't catch it in the favorites. It's so pretty. See what I mean with that mascara? So good. So good. No, you don't have to have the primer with it. I have used it without, and it's great, but I have it, so why not? All right, so to finish off with lips, I used this in last month's, like, getting ready with new makeup, playing with new makeup. This is from Kiss and Smink, and it is the Martinique Lip Crayon. They sent this over to me with a couple of other things, and I really like this shade. And the gloss that I used in that video, obviously you can say after I filmed that video, I just can't stop with this combination, is the Buxom White Russian. Definitely not new, and not even new to me, but this one is. I hadn't had it in a very long time, and I got it during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty, and I can't seem to quit using it. So that is the finished makeup look. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I am going to talk about a fragrance. If you're not interested in that, then I guess you can go ahead and sign off. I'll have everything listed down below. But this fragrance was sent to me by Twisted Lily. It's the newest addition to the Goutal Paris line, and it's called Folie d'un Soir. Not a pretty way to say it. Y'all, I watched some fragrance videos, and you can tell when people either A, speak French, B, took it in high school, or C, just have some level of understanding of the language. It is not me. They make this beautiful like pronunciations, and I'm like, I cannot get my words to work that way. So it doesn't sound pretty when I pronounce it, but that is the name. I love the little stories they have with fragrances. And this says, this new fragrance takes us back to the madness of one night when Anique decided to leave her life in France and start a new one in London, where she became a model by accident. On her way to adulthood, she wanted to fly on her own wings away from music towards a new destination and a new destiny. Here she is, full of uncertainty but full of audacity, on her way to London to explore a new life. Coming as an au pair, she didn't know that she would soon become a model, paving the way to Geraldine, a woody, spicy fragrance. So the top notes are pink pepper and Turkish rose. The heart is myrrh and incense, and the base is leather and cocoa. The name means one night madness, by the way. I just looked that up. I'm going to spray it on myself as well as a card so I can continue to smell it and let you know my thoughts. Here's the thing. I don't get a ton of rose in this. I mean, I can tell it's there, but it's not the star of the show. I do get the spices. I get a little bit of the cacao, maybe a hint of a leather feeling. but it's not strong leather. I've definitely smelled fragrances that are way stronger than this on the leather front. This has an effervescent quality to me, and I don't know that it's supposed to, but it does. This is like a spicy scent that I would totally wear in the summer because it has this almost fizzy Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper type of feel to it, which I don't want to say that and make it cheapen this fragrance because that's not it at all. That's the feeling that it evokes in me with all of those notes put together. So if you like a spicy type of like cacao, leathery, little bit type of fragrance, but you feel like you only can wear those scents in the winter, I would highly suggest checking this one out because I will totally wear this in the hotter days because of that effervescent quality to it. It really is very unique to my collection. This is now my 4th Goutal Paris scent. And let's be real, the bottles are just divine. I love how they look. I have a little section. I store all of my fragrances back here on like a shelving unit, but I have a little section on my desk right here where I will display the ones I'm rotating through the most. And all of my Goutals are on that because they just look absolutely beautiful. So this is Folie d'un Soir by Goutal. Now I do have a Twisted Lily discount code, so I will leave that down in the description box if you want to check that out or any of their other fragrances because it is good site-wide. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out all the links down below if you're interested in any of these products. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will be back in a few days with the next video. So thank y'all so much for watching. Be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope y'all all go out and have a very blessed day.